Hi everyone, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to share with you how to create some labels for your junk journaling. Now in this video, I will show you two different ways to make these labels. They are both completely free and they are both online, so you can easily access them if you can access this video. Both ways have some pros to them and both ways have some cons to them. So I will break those down with you, and I will also go over each and every step of how to make these. So let's go ahead and start with the first way, which is with Microsoft Excel. If you have Microsoft on your computer, you can use that. However, Microsoft is an expensive program, or an expensive suite, if you will, but you can go to Microsoft Online, onelive.com, and you can use their free version. Now it's pared down a little bit, so you don't have as many options as you would with like Excel on your computer, but it is a great tool if this is what you have available. So you go to Microsoft 365 and you make an account if you don't already have one. Now with that account, you have all these different programs that you can use, and everything is available online. So if you switch computers regularly, you will have access to them no matter which computer, tablet, phone you are on. Now I'm going to go to Excel and I'm going to open a blank workbook. All that is going to do is open up a new blank document for you to start working in. And the first thing I want to do is go ahead and widen up my columns here. So I'm going to select rows A, B, C, D, E, and F. And I do that by just holding down the Shift key and clicking on each row. And then once I do that, I will right click just anywhere where it's kind of greenish. And then I will click on that column width. And I'm going to click that custom size. And that's going to allow me to make the width whatever I want. And so I am going to go ahead and go to 20 here in the default width, and I'm just going to click OK. This is going to widen them up to where it's going to fit across a whole sheet of paper. That's just what I found works best for me. You can play around with the width as you want, but that is what I like to do. Now I am going to just choose a quick font here and also go in and choose my size as well. Now you don't have to do this right now. I'm just doing it because I want to size everything to where it's all going to fit on one sheet of paper. Now you don't have to do this. This is just something I like to do because a lot of the times whatever I make, I offer to you all as free printables, and I don't want like 6 pages of labels. I want 1 page. So I'm going to make sure everything that I am creating will fit onto 1 page. So I found that A through F are my rows. I've sized the width to 20. And then I am going to choose my font, which is Courier New. I like it bold. And then I'm also going to do a 12-point font. And then I'm just going to go down and type a quick hello in each one of these. So I went from 1 to I think 30, and then I'll go over to F, and then I'm just going to do a quick print preview. That is going to make sure that I have filled up my entire sheet of paper, and I know where I need to start and stop with each one of my rows. And it also allows me to know how many rows I actually want on each sheet of paper. So once I have that all figured out, I can go ahead and go back and I can start typing in all of my different words. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these. You can just quickly click on them and hit your delete button or backspace, and then we can start working on all of our different words. Now here's where you get to have fun. You get to choose whatever words you want. So for this, I'm going in with kind of a time theme. So I've got time, hour, minute, clock. You can do colors, you can do numbers, you can do different days of the week. You can do so many different words. It really is up to you. So here is a look at kind of what I have going on here. Now, as I'm filling in all of these different words, I do want to point you to one drawback of using this Microsoft Excel for this project. First of all, Pro, very simple and easy to use. Not a lot to figure out. Everything's kind of worked out for you. Really, really simple and easy to use. You can also print preview with this. Now, one thing that's not so great, you are limited to the fonts that are on here. Even if you have some downloaded to your computer, I haven't found a way to use them. Maybe there is, I don't know. But from what I found, you're kind of limited to what they have available for you. Now, that might not bother you. You might love the fonts that are available, but you might love some that you have downloaded to your computer, and you want to use those. I haven't found a way to use them on this, unless you have Excel on your computer and you pay for it. Then you obviously can. But if you're using the free version like I am here, you can't. Now, once I have all of my words on there, I'm going to go ahead and click the print button. And this is going to bring up the print preview before I print. I'm happy with this. Now, a few things you can do. You can go in and you can add different grid lines if you want to. That will just help you cut these out later on. I like to keep mine just plain, but you can add those in. You can also do some formatting if you want. But with this, I just like to go ahead and click print and it's ready to go. Now, if you are working on this on like a work computer or something and you want it available on something else, you can just download it as well, simply by clicking download as a PDF, which I will show you in just a moment. But very simple and easy to print, kind of your standard print setup. And it will print in a horizontal format, which is great as well. You get a whole lot more words on there this way. Now here you can see you can just download as a PDF, so then it will download to your computer. You can put it on a jump drive, whatever you want to do, but you do have that option of downloading as well. And then if you don't have a printer, you could send it off to a printer as well. I also like to name mine, so that way I'm not scrolling around in all of my different labels that I have created. So I like to go ahead and name that as well. Now the next program that I like to use is Canva. This is also free. You just have to create an account. I create a lot of my things on Canva. You can pay for a subscription and get a few more different options, but I find the free version works just fine for me. One thing I will say about using Canva, it is a little bit more, it's not as user-friendly. I'll just put it that way. It is just a little bit more tricky to work out your dimensions, and print previews, unless you are paying, are not possible. You have to download. So then it's a matter of downloading, fixing, which I will show you later on in the video. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new document. Now this document is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. So it's your full paper size. Now I'm going to add in this grid. Now to do that, I'm going to click on that little plus sign, scroll down and click table. This is going to bring up this little tab here. Now here's where it can get a little tricky. Sizing this table can be a bit of a headache. Now, if you don't care how many papers you're going to print or make, it's not. If you are me and you are creating printables, it gets a little, not hectic, but it creates a little bit of busy work for me, if you will. So keep that in mind. If you don't care about pushing things down to a new paper, it's not going to matter for you. But if you're like me and you want everything on one paper, that's where it's going to get a little funky for you. So I went ahead and created a 6 by whatever it would let me do. Now it won't let you go super big at first, so I just add in more as I'm going. But first I'm going to go ahead and format my table a little bit. You can space your cells a little bit further apart, a little bit closer together. You can do a little bit of the table spacing. You can create different grid lines so they aren't totally solid. You can do different colored grid lines. You have a lot more options to customize this table than you do in the Excel. And because I want to add more rows to this, I'm going to go ahead and kind of get it set up how I want it. And then I am going to start adding in rows. Now you can do that by just right-clicking on the table itself, and you can click add row. It really is that simple. You're just going to add in rows and rows and rows until you have a full paper. Now here's where it gets so much fun doing this on Canva. When you go and you add in all your words, you have access to so many fonts. A lot of them are free on Canva. However, the great thing about this, any that you download and that are on your computer are automatically pulled into Canva. So you can use whatever's on your computer in this program. You also have the ability to change it to any color you want, which is fabulous. It makes it so much fun creating these different labels. And here you can see as I'm scrolling through this, I've been scrolling for a while as I'm talking, and I'm only in the B's. A lot of these that you see the little yellow crown looking thing next to, those you all have to pay for. But a lot of these I've downloaded. I will leave some links down below of websites I like to use to download my fonts. I use them on my Cricut. I use them in my projects. They're free. They're easy to download, super simple, and they create some great labels. Now, another great thing when using Canva, up at the top when you search, you can search for handwriting, and it will bring up a whole list of fonts that look like handwriting. So you have that ability to search. So you might have thousands upon thousands of fonts, but you don't have time to scroll through all those. So here I'm going to look up typewriter. It's going to bring up all of my different fonts that even resemble typewriter. So I've got all of those kind of at my fingertips. You can also search up handwriting. It's got display in there. Those are just some of the kind of suggestions that it will. Calligraphy, vintage, just so many different things you can look up in there that it narrows it down for you so you're not scrolling for hours upon hours upon hours. That is a really neat feature that I use quite often when I am designing things to really help me narrow it down. Now, one thing about Canva as well, it kind of wants to format itself, if you will. So something I like to do, I like to just fill in all of my different areas that I have here, all of my different cells, with whatever word, whatever numbers, whatever I want. And then I will go back and I will change those two different text styles, two different widths, two different colors. And that just helps me kind of move a little bit more quickly because it wants to go back and kind of format itself. So keep that in mind as you're working. Sometimes it's easier to just get them all filled in with that Canva Sans that's already kind of in there. And then you can go back and you can pick and choose what you want in what different fonts. That also allows you to really kind of play around with it and have fun and try different things, and you're not stuck in one font indefinitely. You can go back and you can change it. And you can do a cell that is in the top right hand corner and one that's in the middle. All you'll need to do is hold down that shift key while you're choosing, and it will choose those individual cells for you. Now here you can see I have filled in all of my different areas with some numbers, some that say filed, some that say curious, found, file number. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to start playing around with those fonts and really having fun. So here I'm choosing my different cells. All I'm doing is as I am clicking, I am holding down that shift key, and that's going to allow me to choose each individual cell that I want to work with. So maybe I want all of my numbers in one certain font or one certain color. Well, I can go through and I can choose all of those. Maybe I want half of them in red, half of them in blue, some of them in green. I can do that by using this technique. Very simple and easy to do. But here I've chosen some. I'm going to go in and change those to that Essays font and just kind of play around with it. Then I'm going to go and choose some different ones and change those to a different font and a different color, and just have fun and kind of coordinate these and make them all look a little different. Now you could really have fun and change each one to a different font if you wanted to, but I like to kind of try and coordinate them, make it kind of a theme, if you will. But again, I offer a lot of mine as printables. Maybe you just want to do them all in one sort of font. That's fine too. You can absolutely do that. But one of my favorite things about using Canva and having the option of all those different fonts is you can really find some great ones that look like handwriting. So if you're like me and you don't like your handwriting, or you want some labels that just all look like the same handwriting, but you can't get that look you want, you can absolutely find it in this program, or you can download it and use one that you've downloaded. So here I'm just choosing all of these labels that say specimen and slide number, really any of them that just kind of have words with them. And I'm going to choose all those, and then I will go over to my little sidebar on the left there, and I'm going to search for handwriting. That's going to bring up a ton of different fonts. Now you can use a really formal handwriting font. You can use something more classical. You can use something that is more along the kid version of a handwriting font. So you have a lot of different options. So it's a lot of fun to go through and kind of play around with it. One of my favorites is a font called Handmade Apple Pie. I don't use it here, but it is one of my favorites to use when I'm making these kinds of labels. Just an FYI, but there are a lot of great ones that are already on the program or that you can download. Again, I will leave some of those links down below where I like to go to find my fonts completely for free. So once I've chosen a font I like, I'm just going to go ahead and keep that as is. But another thing that is great about using the Canva program is you can make your different labels different colors. So you can change the background if you want. However, you can also change the word color or the font color. And that's a lot of fun. So if you want to do like canceled for a label, or some of your numbers, you can change those to your blues, your reds, your greens, all those kind of primary colors that are more vintage looking. And that's a lot of fun to do. But just another option you have when using the Canva program. And of course, they don't all have to be the same color. You can pick and choose just like you can with different fonts, which is great because then you can go and make them all a little different if you want to. One thing with this program though is as you're doing your different fonts and your different styles, all those different things, it's not going to show you how far over you are with your spacing, if that makes sense. So if it's going to push things down to a new line, if it's going to push things over, it's not going to show that. And you also cannot use a print preview. So one thing you have to do is you have to go in and download. I like to download in the letter format because that's what I'm going to be putting these up as. And you can see a lot of my different words and things were pushed down to a new line or a new column. So I need to go back in and I need to adjust these. That is one bad thing about using this program. This is the way you have to do it. So once I've downloaded and I can see where my issues are, I can go back in, I can take out some of those numbers if I want to. I can drop the size of the font down as well. That will make them a little bit smaller and condense them down all back onto one line. You can go back in and format these a number of different ways and change them up. You can do different fonts, but I will continue to change them. And then again, Once I think I have a good amount of fixing done, I will go back in and download again. I still had a few different issues, so I'm going to go back in and fix those just with a little formatting. And then once again, download for that third time and see how it turns out this time. Again, this is just one of those things. It takes some time, but this is the way it has to be done. So once I'm happy with that and I have them all on one sheet, I am good to go. Now, you can print these off right away once you've downloaded them. But when I print, of course, they are on plain white paper. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to tea dye them. Now, I use a laser printer. If you do not have a laser printer, you can get these printed off at your local office supply store. And then I just like to coffee dye or tea dye them to give them that vintage look. I also like to sprinkle a little bit of those instant coffee grounds right on top. And then I just let them dry, and these are ready to go, and you can have fun with them as you will. Now, if you don't want a coffee dye, you don't have a laser printer, you don't want to take that time to go to a store and get them printed off, you can print them off onto some craft paper. You can also ink blend over the top of them. You can do a lot of different things to get that vintage look. You can also print on colored paper if you wanted to. That would give you a nice look. You can also print on some sort of like parchment paper, not parchment, but if you were making a resume, like a higher quality, a higher end, thicker paper, and then you can ink blend over the top of that. That's always really fun as well. Now, once I have these printed off, it's as simple as cutting them out. I either like to use my paper trimmer, or if I want to kind of keep them all attached and use some that are just in the middle, I will use my Tim Holtz ruler. Any ruler will work, and I like to use just a craft knife or a box cutter, whatever you want to call it. I like to use this to just cut them apart. This gives me a nice even line, and I can get as close or as far away as I want to. You can also just use plain old scissors if you have a better hand than I do and can cut a straighter line than I can, or maybe you want it a little wonky. You can use dies to cut these out as well. There are a number of different ways you can cut these out and use them on your projects. You can make them straight lines all the way across. You can make little banner ends at the ends of some of these. It really is a lot of fun to play around with them and just kind of make them your own. Now, one more way to make these labels a little bit more fun and a little bit more authentic is to use some of those old-timey vintage stamps, like the date and the number stamps. They're fairly cheap on Amazon or at your local office supply store. Then you can just make like the number letters on your labels, and then you can stamp them, or you can do a date and you can stamp the date with your little vintagey type of date roller here. Now, these are a lot of fun. These are very cheap to buy, but I use mine so often in my journaling. I just turn them to random numbers, tap them in my ink pad. They work with all sorts of different ink pads, then stamp it down onto those labels. These are a whole lot of fun to use, and like I said, probably one of my more used tools in my journaling. I will leave a link to these down below, as well as all the other supplies that I used today. I will also leave a link to both websites that I used to create these labels. Now, something else, you can just use a regular old pen to fill these in too. That is another great option and a lot of fun, and so many different ways to customize these and kind of make them your own. Now, as you've seen in the video, I have been making quite a few labels, and I do a freebie Friday every Friday over on my blog. So for the next couple of Fridays, I kind of switch it up, but I will be offering some of these labels for free download over there. So if you don't want to make them on your own, you can go over there and download them yourself and print them off. They're already done for you. Here's just a few examples of using these. Some I've put little hashes around to make sort of faux stitching. Some I've just inked around. Some I've left plain. Some I've stamped on. Some I've stapled through. A lot of fun to use these in so many different ways. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you'll give it a shot and make your own labels. Maybe you have a little bit different style and words you want to use. You can use this video to make them yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Happy crafting, everyone.